Hey everybody, this is my attempt just to walk you through some of the key ideas and help you focus on the most important topics. We know with the AP exam that the topics that are on the exam, they tend to trend from year to year. So I want to help you identify those things that you might possibly see. So nothing exciting here. You will just see the key concepts pulled up, and I'll just try to highlight key topics. First of all, era 1 was our very first era, and remember that goes from roughly 8000 BCE all the way up to 600 BCE, and the name of this era is technological and environmental transformations. This is about technological changes for human beings, and then the environmental transformations due to human behavior, and then also the impact that the environment has on humans. So let's get into the big first thought. The first key concept is just human migration and the migration of humans over all regions of the earth. We talked about big geography, talking about things on a global scale as opposed to just a regional one. And one of the big topics, this has been on the AP exam before, is just the fact that the first humans, and the theory right now is that they originated in Africa, but that is kind of under debate right now, just to be fully transparent, but this is still just a key concept. And that they begin in Africa and migrate to all regions of the earth. And so understanding the point of origin and the fact that humans were capable of doing this, even though it took thousands of years for humans to migrate. So just understanding that humans are very adaptable and mobile, the fact that they can migrate to all the different regions, and that they're developing tools in order to allow this to happen, including the use of fire as they adapt to new environments. When we took a look at the organization of these first societies, we talked about small clan-based political units and how it was mostly family-based, and that these clans did have interaction. Here we see a map here of global migration. Sorry about that, I got interrupted. So I just have a map here. This could be something that you would see like a map. Hey, what does this show? And this is just showing patterns of migration and the fact that human beings are really migrating to all regions of the earth. And this stone tool here is representing a technology that humans use to adapt. Probably the most important topic here would be the Neolithic Revolution and the development of sedentary agriculture. And so this is a major transformation, as we know, that in the mid-thousands BCE, we don't have an exact year on that, but there is the invention of sedentary agriculture, the fact that you could intentionally plant seeds instead of being a hunting and gathering society, which they were before, that you could plant seeds and grow and cultivate and domesticate crops. Remember, domestication is a major concept that refers to when humans modify animals or food. This would be crops for their own benefit. So this would just be growing like a type of wheat that makes the most sense or is hardy and provides the best yield, or breeding a certain type of animal that is more preferable. This was a major development just because of everything that it changed. So one of the things we did was spice chart the changes, like the social, political, human environment interaction, cultural, and economics part. So that's definitely worth taking a look at and seeing how all areas of life change as a result of sedentary agriculture. We're going to see the development of patriarchal societies. That's one of the outcomes. Remember, as these humans start to settle down into civilizations and form cities, we see that women are going to have less of a role. You know, in the hunting and gathering societies, it was fairly egalitarian. If you remember, that just means more equal, but not so much in these societies. We will also see pastoralism, or humans that are relying on their animals and migrating with their animals. And they are kind of, as always, these pastoralists and people that move with their animals, they're the ones that are kind of creating exchanges among different people living in different cities and civilizations. So down here, the evidence for this is just talking about the emergence of sedentary agriculture and the growth of civilization. And so knowing where it started in Mesopotamia, in the Fertile Crescent, would be important to know. Then, following development in Mesopotamia, see development in other regions of the world, such as Egypt, Indus River Valley, China, and later on even in the Americas. The domestication of plants and animals. Remember, this was example, this environmental diversity declined. Biodiversity, remember, nature is most diverse in a natural setting, so once humans start to plant their own seeds and grow their own crops and essentially mess with nature, biodiversity will decline, especially because we're going to be planting crops that are most desirable, so those will become more common and lead to less diversity, even with animals as well. Agriculture and pastoralism transform human societies. Remember what happens with a food surplus. We're going to have an increase in population. With population comes cities. One outcome is specialization of labor, which means that humans are taking on more specialized tasks. And with specialization of labor, we will see new classes develop. So social classes will begin to form. Art, it will be based on your job. So we'll have like artisans and peasants and farmers. We will have political leaders, religious leaders, warriors, and social classes develop. Women, because of the transition away from hunting and gathering where they were equally vital, because the agricultural work is incredibly harsh, or because there's more work if you have a home and there's things that you have to take care of, and child rearing is especially difficult with farm work. And so women are no longer often vital to the economic survival of the family and therefore have decreased power and will lead to patriarchy. Technological innovations are huge. We know this. It will lead to improvements in agricultural production and trade. So just the simple things such as wheels and the development of wheeled vehicles, metallurgy and the development of iron plows, that will come later on, textiles, pottery, all these technological innovations will lead to improvements in production. And don't forget the emergence of patriarchy or male-dominated social organization. So we are moving on to the last major concept, and that is the development and interactions of early societies. And so I feel like usually this gets approached like civilizations, but really we want you to understand that there are other types of organizations, including pastoral communities. So with the emergence of civilizations, we see cities, and with cities we see the need for government. While there are many differences between the civilizations, they also really shared important features. One similarity is the production of agricultural surpluses, which led to specialization of labor. All civilizations contained cities and had complex governments and institutions, including bureaucracies, armies, and religious hierarchies. They also featured clearly stratified social hierarchies. Remember, stratified is a fancy word for layering. Economic exchanges intensified, which means that there will be more trade between civilizations. And as populations grew, there was more competition, which leads to specialization of labor, increased trade, government, and record keeping. So this is a key development as well because of the surpluses and how complicated things are getting. We have to have rules to manage that, and that is going to require record keeping and a form of written writing. Also, with surpluses come war. There will be shortages, once you settle down, and if you have a famine or if you have a flood, then food is going to be scarce. What if one neighboring city has more abundant resources? What if a neighboring village is going through starvation? So competition over these resources will only increase and lead to war and conflict between these people living either within the civilization or between two different civilizations themselves, which means that people will start to develop new technology of war and urban defense. So urban defense is just simply like building a wall or like digging a moat. Weapon technology at this time is mostly just the development of iron tools and weapons, and then also chariots. Please make sure you know where all the major civilizations are located. Mesopotamia in the Tigris and Euphrates River. Sumeria would be a city-state within there, same with Babylonia, the Hittites, and the Assyrians. So know that these are all found in the Mesopotamian region. These are usually focused on more than the other regions, although it's not guaranteed. The centralized Egyptian government in the Nile River Valley, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa in Indus River Valley, Shang over in China. The Olmecs and the Chaven in Mesoamerica and South America are on this list. I've never seen them featured on the AP exam, but for sure be able to associate them. Knowing where the first civilizations emerged, so Mesopotamia, of course, first sedentary agricultural society and civilization, and then later Egypt. So they're going to have to, so this has been on there before, this topic here. What is a government? What is the role of the government in these first civilizations? It is really to manage crops and to maintain power. They have to manage their crops and their food surpluses so that they can feed people and maintain law and order. Many of the rulers are claimed to have a connection to the divine. Egypt, we know that the pharaohs claimed a connection to the sun god. And in Mesopotamia, remember they had city-states, but even within those city-states, those individual rulers often claim to have a connection to some sort of god, being polytheistic societies. They also developed armies and had soldiers and warriors for support. This part here speaks to the expansion of these civilization will lead to war. The Hittites have been on the AP exam before related to the topic of warring and also iron production. So the production of chariots and iron weapons, the fact that this is a conquering people within Mesopotamia. And pastoralists here, going on to the next topic. They often developed and spread new weapons, and that makes sense if they're moving amongst different cities and civilizations themselves and transferring that knowledge. Whether it seems basic to us, but simple things like bows and iron weapons, chariots and horseback riding, these are new ways of fighting and new modes of transportation. And the people that have access to this first technology, Mesopotamian people, those are going to be the people that conquer neighboring areas. Culture is huge. We know that most of them, culture and religion was the defining part of their life. It kind of helped organize society, government, social classes. We know that most of them were polytheistic. In Mesopotamia, a cultural feature would be a ziggurat. And monumental architecture is a topic you need to be familiar with. These are big monumental buildings that cultures or civilizations are building in order to organize and reflect their culture. So we know that the ziggurats in Mesopotamia would be an example for political purposes and religious purposes. Pyramids in Egypt. Defensive walls would be an example. Indus River Valley, their example of architecture and urban planning would be the gridded cities. And then just knowing the different systems of record keeping. So do make sure that you go through and realize that record keeping was a huge important role of government and necessary for communication as these civilizations grow. Legal codes, big deal, ding ding, big topic on the AP exam. Please understand and remember the Code of Hammurabi from Babylon. This was based on social class, as most of the early legal codes were, and they defined rules for behavior, consequences for breaking the law, and it's just a brand new concept. I know it's hard for us to think about that being new, but it's wow, we're going to have written down rules, and this is going to decide how we relate to one another within society and what the rules and consequences will be. Do know the emergence of monotheism in Judaism with Hebrews, the Vedic religion in the Indus River Valley, and Zoroastrianism at the very end in Persia, which was one of the first monotheistic faiths. Trade expanded from this period from local to regional. And that is pretty much it from the key concepts wrapping up. I would say just make sure you study the Quizlet set and review your key things, and you'll be good with Arrow 1.